P.T. Barnum famously said, "There's a sucker born every minute." The corollary to this is that suckers are suckers and very easy to manipulate and take advantage of because they believe things that are too good to be true. Carl Jung, a psychoanalyst and contemporary of Freud, said that unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life and you will call it fate. An updated version of this, in light of the recent discoveries of evolutionary psychology, could be, unless you understand and manage your instincts will drive your behaviors and your life will become a train wreck. There are 4 instincts. We have a ton of instincts, but 4 of these instincts worked perfectly in the days of hunter-gatherers, but these 4 instincts conspire together in as much as instincts can conspire with one another. These instincts conspire together in modern times, and these 4 instincts alone are responsible for the collapse of many, many societies. The first instinct is it's shown through the Wason selection task. The Wason selection task is a logical puzzle. You're given a set of rules and then a system, and then you have to see how well you can apply these rules in this system based on pure logic. When it's presented in pure abstract forms, you have a bunch of cards and they have colors on one side and odd or even numbers on the other, and the question is, which cards do you turn over to make sure the rules are being followed? Most people fail this test. But the same exact problem presented in a social situation, you're a bartender or you're a bouncer at a bar and your job is to figure out which person whose ID to check, everybody gets this right. The thing of it is, though, these are the exact same problems, the exact same logical problem. But the logical problem presented in pure logical abstract forms, everyone's like, I don't understand this. But the exact same thing presented in a social setting, specifically to pick out the cheaters who are not following the rules in a social setting, everybody gets this right. This is easy. This is automatic. Nobody needs to think. 10-year-olds can do this. So psychologists believe this indicates we don't really have pure logical circuits in our brain. We have contextual logical circuits in our brain, and they're wired to sniff out social cheaters. If you can imagine a group of hunter-gatherers and a few dudes came back from the hunt and they had a big woolly mammoth and they didn't share it with anybody, that would trigger this anti-cheater defense mechanism. And everybody would get angry at them for not sharing. And while they were sleeping, 10 or 15 dudes would pick up rocks and kill them. And so everybody in the tribe knows that everybody has this anti-cheater mechanism. And everybody knows that 4 or 5 dudes with rocks can kill 3 or 4 dudes or 2 or 3 dudes. And so we all have this evolved instinct where we look around and we sniff out the cheaters among us. So if someone has something and they're not sharing it, this triggers this cheater instinct or this anti-cheater instinct. The next instinct is something we can call a cost-benefit analysis instinct. Any animal that spent 100 calories to get back 50 calories worth of food would eventually starve. And so all of these animals with this cockeyed cost-benefit analysis, spend more than you get, would all be eliminated from the gene pool. And the only animals that exist, including us humans, is the ones where we have this intuitive, instinctive understanding that everything costs something. And whenever we do something, we better get back more than we're doing. But on a more basic level, this instinct says minimize costs, maximize benefits. Do as little as you can and get as much as you can. Any monkey people, proto-human monkey people that existed that didn't have this instinct would be outpopulated by people that did have this instinct. So that's the second instinct. The first instinct is the anti-cheater instinct. The second instinct is minimize costs, maximize benefits. Do as little as can, get as much as you can. The third instinct is a projection instinct. We project our shortcomings out into the world. We project our failures out into the world. Imagine two different hunters. They both throw their spear. They both miss. The first guy has a rational response, an accurate response. I missed because I'm not as skilled as I could be at throwing spears at animals. That would damage his confidence. That would damage his ego. And that guy would be less likely to survive. Consider another guy, the other guy that throws and misses. His response is, I missed because it's that goddamn animal's fault. It's not my fault, it's the animal's fault. That protects the integrity of his ego, his self-identity. And that gives him energy to point out into the world. Because in the life of hunter-gatherers, life was essentially humans versus the world. And the world was not other humans. The world was animals and monsters that were trying to eat us, and we had to kill them and eat them. So in a world where the external world is filled with monsters and animals that you need to kill and eat, that want to kill and eat you, having an anger projection out into the world, having a projection instinct that says all my shortcomings are the world's fault, I'm going to go out and punish the world. This is a very useful instinct in the days of hunter-gatherers. It also represents a deeper idea that we evolved the capacity to believe things. In this case, it's not my fault I missed, it's the animal's fault I missed. We believe things that are not true if they help us survive. So consider the idea that we might have a belief system where our beliefs are not generated based on accuracy and truth. Our beliefs are whatever we need to believe to keep moving forward. This is why everybody loves comfortable lies much rather than uncomfortable truths. Everybody believes in the lies that help them move forward. Now, the fourth instinct is the desire for power instinct, the desire for hierarchically expressed status. Anything that can get us up the status ladder. This is because in all mammals and in humans and proto-human societies, hunter-gatherer societies, we lived in a very tight hierarchy. The only way you could gain access to sex and therefore pass your genes on into the next generation was to get up the hierarchy any way that you could. So ancient hunter-gatherer life was a very vicious, a very ruthless hierarchy contest. So we all have this instinct that says, climb up the hierarchy ladder any way that you can. Display your hierarchy and your status to everybody else any way that you can. So this represents itself in modern time through conspicuous consumption. Conspicuous consumption is when we buy things not because we value the product, but we can show off to everybody. In fact, there's some economic theories, some ideas that say that before the Industrial Revolution, which happened around the early 1800s, late 1700s, there was a couple hundred years that they call the Industrious Revolution, where they significantly increased consumer demand. And this increase in consumer demand created these bottlenecks in the productive capacity. And these bottlenecks in the productive capacity was kind of the necessity is a mother of invention kind of thing, where they had to scramble to come up with new ways to continuously make products to sell to people. And that's what led to this increase in inventions. But the reason behind the increase in consumer products, consumer purchases in the 200 years leading up to the Industrial Revolution was they made it legal to engage in conspicuous consumption. Before that, they had significant laws of what the upper classes could buy and wear and show off, and what the lower classes were allowed to buy and wear and show off. But they relaxed those laws, so the lower classes suddenly were able to buy stuff and show off their wealth and their status. And so that's when kind of conspicuous consumption for everybody was invented. And so in order to pay for all this extra stuff, people started working a lot harder. And that led to the Industrial Revolution. But that's just an example of this deep instinct within us that says, show off your status, get as much power as you can, get as much hierarchical power as you can. Everybody has this deep drive within them. This is the source, this is the driving force, the intention of the ego to express why I'm better than everybody else. So now you have these four instincts. the anti-cheater instinct, the do little, get the most I can instinct, the externalizing instinct, and the ego instinct, or the power-hungry instinct. Now, how do these collapse societies? Well, let's start off with a society where you have a very distorted Pareto distribution of wealth. A few people on top, most people are broke. Everybody's struggling except a few rich people who contain all the wealth. So if you're a regular person, a regular working person, you live in a society where you're broke, but some people are rich and they're not sharing. This triggers the anti-cheater instinct. So everybody's walking around, and because of whatever information system exists in whatever society this is happening in, as long as you know that some people are rich and you're not rich, and you see these rich people and you're poor, this triggers this anti-cheating instinct over and over and over again. This creates this sense that something's not right in society. This represents a massive untapped market. Now you have a bunch of dudes who crave power above all anything else. And these dudes, let's say you have 1,000 guys and girls in society, and they all have the same idea. If I could come up with some type of message to tell the masses, they'll believe my message, and I can get political power. I can get real power. I can get wealth. And so these 1,000 dudes, these 1,000 people, all come up with just random messages. And just like any open market, whoever comes up with the message that is the most popular, that message is going to win the survivorship contest. Now, what message is the one that wins the contest of the most popular message coming out of the mouths of these power-hungry wannabe politicians? According to Thomas Sowell, historian, author, and economist, the most common structure of political messages since the dawn of time is this: your problems are not your fault. Your problems are somebody else's fault. Put me in charge and I'll fix it. That's kind of the, not necessarily said explicitly, but that's kind of the feeling of the message. And that feels very true to all these people who have their anti-cheater instinct getting triggered every freaking day when they say rich people that are not sharing. And so they're thinking, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. The problems are not my fault. It's someone else's fault. This is, again, the projection instinct. And so this person who wants to be in charge has this message that a lot of people are hearing and think, oh yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. And so over their career, they keep broadcasting this message however they can, giving public speeches if it's possible to make messages through media or whatever. And they kind of calibrate their message over time, and their message evolves over time to match exactly what the people want to hear, kind of like a modern content creator. People that have a lot of YouTube videos and they have a lot of views and followers, they slowly calibrate their message and maybe unconsciously make videos that they know are going to be more popular. And so they kind of change their beliefs to believe whatever they need to believe to come up with a message that they unconsciously or consciously know is going to be more popular with their followers. And that's how their ideology changes over time. And that's what happens with these wannabe politicians. They keep calibrating and recalibrating their message to deliver to the masses to hopefully one day get called up to the big show and have real power. Now, they don't remember the idea that we believe whatever we need to believe to get what we want. In this case, they want power. So they'll believe whatever they need to believe to make their message more congruent so it's more acceptable to the masses. And what this ends up being is some idea. They don't ever say this explicitly or directly, but the idea is that you don't have to do anything differently. The world is corrupt. Rich people are cheating. You should be rich, and they should be sharing their wealth. But the gist of the message is, if you put me in power, if you believe in my system, if you believe in my religion, if you vote for me politically, if you buy my self-help program, you won't have to do anything differently than you're doing now, but you'll get a lot more stuff. That's the gist of all of these messages from all these wannabe leaders since the dawn of time, a combination of two things. Your problems are not your fault. Your problems are somebody else's fault. Put me in charge and I'll fix it. That taps the this isn't fair instinct, the cheater instinct. This also taps the projection instinct. It's not my fault, it's their fault. And again, the second part is, if you put me in charge, you won't have to do anything different than you're doing now. Just put me in charge, just vote for me, just agree with me, and everything will magically change, and you'll get a lot more stuff without doing anything differently. This taps the do as little as you can to get as much as you can instinct, the cost-benefit analysis instinct. And that happens, and eventually, if it keeps going this way, this dude, this person, whoever it is going to become in charge, and they're going to have actual political power. And everybody's expecting a miracle. Everybody's expecting, finally, my voice was heard. Finally, someone really understood me. The rich people are cheating. I'm going to get all the stuff I wanted, and I don't have to do anything different. Life's going to be fantastic. We're on the verge of a glorious revolution. But then nothing changes, because when the dude was giving all these messages, he was just unconsciously believing whatever he needed to believe to get more and more people loving him and his message. So the system doesn't get any better. Oftentimes, it gets worse. And now the people are pissed. The masses are pissed. They were promised a glorious revolution where they didn't have to do anything differently, and they got all this stuff. And now life's worse. Now it sucks even more. Now they need a reason. And the guy in charge is thinking, holy crap, what do I do now? And this is when the externalizing projection instinct kicks in. Everybody needs to blame somebody else. The dude in charge needs to blame somebody why his magical system is not working. The people that bought into this system, they need to be congruent with their egos, so they need to come up with a reason it's not working. And this is when they kind of collectively, unconsciously come up with some kind of a scapegoat. These are often called anti-revolutionaries. And these are the people that are always killed during these failed revolutions. This is what happened during the French Revolution. This is what happened in the Cultural Revolution in China. This is exactly why Hitler went after the Jews. This is why the Soviets murdered tens of millions of their own people. This has happened over and over and over again in history. These four instincts, this cycle of history, these four instincts combined with our capacity to believe things not because they're true, but because we think they'll get us stuff. Get us stuff based on the minimized effort, maximize cost. These four instincts, these four horsemen of the apocalypse have destroyed many, many societies, and they're probably coming soon to a country near you, maybe the one you're living in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.